Kids Escaping Drugs has been deeply rooted in our community for over 30 years, empowering adolescents and families to live a life free from the disease of addiction. Like Focus, they are dedicated to empowering our local youth to lead a drug-free life here in Western New York through their partnership with Focus by providing addiction prevention, education, and resources. We'll tell you more up next. I'm joined here today by Jody Altman, the Executive Director of Kids Escaping Drugs. I'm so happy to have you today on the Sweet Buffalo Show.
Well, thank you for having us.
Of course. So first, tell me more about your mission at Kids Escaping Drugs.
So Kids Escaping Drugs has been around, like you said, for over 30 years, and our mission is to empower both adolescents and their families to live a life free of addiction, and we do that through community outreach, intervention, and education.
And I know during COVID, it was a really difficult time for children. Tell us more about what Kids Escaping Drugs saw during that time.
So what we saw during that time was a whole lot of nothing. Kids isolated at home, oftentimes families stuck at home because the parents were working, the kids were homeschooling, nobody kind of having a whole lot of structure, nobody kind of having a whole lot of rules, and nobody having interaction outside their family circle. And for some, that's okay. For others, family circle isn't really healthy for a variety of reasons. So we saw kids turning to alcohol, turning to drugs. We saw mental health issues that probably were there before really get exacerbated because of the isolation. And oftentimes what happens is these kids end up treating their own mental health issues by using substances. So after COVID, or as we move through COVID and post-COVID, we're really seeing a lot of the ramifications of it. And, you know, to be quite honest with you, it's bad. The kids' mental health issues are very pronounced. The kids' substance use, anybody that tells you that substance use is getting better for teenagers is telling you a lie. What COVID did to these kids was took away their ability to cope, took away their ability to communicate. As Emmett said, their communication became all through technology, and we know that didn't end well. So now we put them back in an environment where they need to make decisions, they need to cope with people, they need to get along with people. They don't know how to do it. It's almost as if it was stunted. But if I use drugs or if I use alcohol, anybody will accept me. So that's kind of what we're seeing.
That's awful. So what is Kids Escaping Drugs doing to help these kids understand that there are other ways to cope and to get through things?
So at Kids Escaping Drugs, we have a face-to-face program which has a couple different arms of it. So our face-to-face program itself is, we are in over 100 and something school districts. So that's not schools, because there's multiple schools in a district. And we do education. And what we can do, because we are not a licensed prevention agency, is we're able to develop our own curriculum. So we do a lot of presentations, big time around vaping right now. We do drug trends. We can do adult programs. We have a dark side of social media presentation that we do that we will not do for kids because we don't need to give them any more ammunition than they have. If a particular partner school has an issue with a certain substance, we can develop a presentation for that. We do peer-to-peer presentations, so if we have a young person in recovery, we're able to bring them to the school, because let's face it, kids want to hear from someone that looks like them, sounds like them, acts like them. So if we're able to bring somebody in from recovery to share their story, we'll do that. If not, we have the ability to bring videos of some of our kids that we've had in the past. So we do a lot of work with the schools. We've recently piloted a Back to Basics program, which is a K-5 program. We're not going and talking to little kids about alcohol and drugs, but it's all resilience, skill building. We're teaching them how to make good decisions. And we do it through fun activities. We do it through artwork. And we piloted it this summer, and it worked really well. So now we're doing a lot of after-school programs. We also do early interventions. So if your child is having a problem in school and gets suspended, oftentimes it's for a long time. And if it's one of our partner schools, if the young person and their family come to us and we do the intervention and they meet with one of our staff members and we make recommendations, oftentimes what will happen is the school will cut that suspension in half. And we're turning it from punitive to being able to identify kids that have issues. And it's designed to be an early intervention program, but I can tell you, definitely since COVID, there's been a lot of kids whose use has gone undetected, and those kids end up needing treatment. So we have the ability to do all of that. And oh, by the way, there's only 6 of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned undetected, you mentioned drug trends, so there's a lot happening that parents are probably not aware of. It's not just marijuana, it's not just, cocaine or things that, on the top of your mind, drugs. There's other ways that children are using drugs these days that parents aren't aware of.
Correct. So we hear this whole thing about the opiate epidemic, and it's out there. It's not typically what you see with teenagers. What we're seeing is a lot of alcohol use, a lot of marijuana use. We're seeing much more psychedelic drugs, so acid, mushrooms, which, we think all back to the 60s, but what it does is it transports you out of you. So imagine a kid that's depressed, or imagine a kid that is from a home that's not so great. This can kind of take them away. They don't, for the short term, obviously. We're seeing a lot of the pressed pills, which that's a drug dealer's dream. So you can go on Amazon, you can buy a pill presser, they can get hold of Xanax, they can cut it in quarters, they can take a little bit of it, they can press it into a pill, and they can put fentanyl in it. And what happens is, if you live through the fentanyl, it's very addictive. So you keep going back to the drug dealer. So the drug dealers make out. But parents don't know. There's things on Amazon, there's things on social media that these kids I don't even know. We wouldn't know as adults. Their education on those things is way beyond what we think. So those are some of the things that we need to be having conversations about. If your kids start to have different friends, if your kids start to stop taking care of themselves, like their hygiene is a really big indicator. You need to check for things. Vaping isn't just vaping nicotine, they're vaping marijuana. And they're able to go into a smoke shop, oftentimes where they don't check ID, and they're able to purchase whatever they want to purchase at 14 and 15 years old.
And these kids, sometimes it might be a really good kid you'd never think would. They can often try something one time and that could be it, because these drugs are not always what the kid thinks it is.
So I don't believe there's a bad kid. And that's just my own personal thing. I just don't think kids are bad. I think we have sick kids. I think we have kids that have suffered things that at 14 and 15 they should never have to. I can tell you from experience, to watch a young person go to a young person's funeral because of a bad decision is something you can't unsee. And we've seen it too many times. And you get to a point where you look through the obituaries and you see a young person and you know, whether it says where donations go to or not, you just know, because that's what's happening.
So what can these teens do to cope? We had Emmett on earlier, a high school student who said that, they enjoy painting. That makes them happy. What can kids do these days to, take their minds off their worries or reach out to somebody? What would you say to them?
What I would say to them is similar to what I said to Emmett, is you need to celebrate you. And we need to celebrate people who are like us, and we need to celebrate people who are different from us. And there is nothing to say that you have to play sports, or you have to play an instrument, or be a cheerleader, or be a popular kid. You need to be a good person. And whatever that means for you, whatever it is that's your outlet, if it's art, if it's sports, if it's music, you need to do it. And you need to be, I believe the kids need praise. And I'm not the, everybody gets a trophy type, but people need to be praised for differences. People need to be praised for doing good things. Kids need to be seen. Kids need to be heard. We as adults need to talk to kids. But more importantly, we need to listen.
And you said there's 6 of you that work at Kids Escaping Drugs, but you don't do this alone. So you have community partners like Focus.
Absolutely.
That help in your mission. What does it mean to you to have a community partner like Focus?
First of all, we don't function without partnerships. We don't function without collaborating. And to have people with similar missions, to have people with similar and different connections and different goals and in different target populations, you can only, not only can we benefit, but at the end of the day, it's about the kids and the families. And so we go home at night. You know, we need to be taking care of our kids. We need to be taking care of families. And we need to put personalities aside and use the strengths that we all have. You know, I've been in this field probably 37 years. And Gwen, maybe not as long. She brings something that I don't bring. So that's that's a partnership. And kids can only benefit, and families can only, and our community can only benefit from it. So you can't survive without partnerships.
Absolutely. Well, Jody, I want to thank you so much for all you do all these years for children with kids escaping drugs, and for joining me on the Sweet Buffalo Show today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Kids Escaping Drugs for shining light onto the trends of today. Organizations such as theirs and Focus play such a crucial role in helping young people prevent a life of addiction, thereby improving their lives and the well-being of the communities they belong to. I speak for the community when I say we are so grateful for their dedication and commitment to saving our youth. You can find out more about Kids Escaping Drugs and how to get involved by visiting KED.org.